I love it every time. The intro. Boom. Here we go. Hi, my name's Steve Joel, and this is 40K by Night. Welcome along. This is the podcast, if you're new to the podcast, that promises to help you and me, if I'm honest, get better at the game of Warhammer 40,000 with our big stompy robots. We focus on Imperial Knights and Chaos Knights, although today it's all about one detachment of Imperial Knights with one of my all-time favorite guests, one of my all-time favorite human beings. We're just going to rock straight into this. No other intro required. Let's bring him in. From Australia, Adam Camilleri. Hey, welcome to the show, man. Nice to have you with us. How you doing? You'll need to unmute yourself, sir, you professional broadcaster.
Pathetic.
You man of many streams.
G'day, yeah, recently back from my adventures over in Palm Springs. I'm a little under the weather. I did catch some con crud, so I do apologize if my audio and or visual elements are not up to my usual high standards. But yeah, happy to be here. As a dude.
Why don't we, before we do anything else, let people know who you are? Because you're on like 100 different Warhammer 40,000. You must be the most prolific individual content producer, and then you're on all sorts of other things as well. I'm a subscriber to Art of War Down Under, Patreon, and I'd love other people to be as well. So give us the lowdown on some of the stuff you do.
Yeah, so I do quite a bit. As I just mentioned, I am one of the casters and commentators for Games Workshop at the moment. So I was over at Palm Springs. I'm going to be over at Adepticon as well, and then whatever else they make me do the rest of the year. On top of that, I do podcasts. So I'm on Forge a Narrative with the wonderful Paul Murphy, in addition to Tanya Gates and Red Power. You can catch that. Usually we record on my Wednesdays. It comes out on about Fridays. Art of War Down Under, of course, is my personal show where it's mostly a review and dissection of new release for 40K. I get myself and some luminary of said faction that just got a release, and we dissect the thing, man reads book style, and it's all in an effort of helping people keep up with the game without having to go out and buy everything or study, because 40K is, for me, it's a full-time job, even though I still do have a day job. Let's see how long that lasts. In addition to that, I also do Warhammer Meta Chasers, which happens at Thursdays on 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch that live on YouTube and also watch it back, where we look at the events coming up for the upcoming weekend. We break down what the meta is, each and every faction, how many are in representation. Then we unpack some of the top players in attendance, make some predictions, have a lot of fun. And then lastly, I do an Old World podcast with the beautiful Peter the Falcon Colosimo and Danny McDevitt from Mob Rules. And yeah, we are all up in that old world.
And if you haven't heard the sung intros to
yes, to this guy right here,
you need to check that out.
What a beautiful loop. What did I pay you with for said intros? We've come full circle, sir.
I know. So the other thing we need to just focus on just briefly is your foray into Knights. So you've kind of committed to it for the first part of the season anyway. So give us a lowdown of what you've been doing and how that's been going.
Yeah, I had an interesting thing happen to me when I was in Vegas last year for the last LVO that happened like in January. And up until that point, I had only ever played Astartes and Astra Militarum. They were my only two factions I'd played for 12 years of competitive 40K. Wow. And I went up with I had a little bit of money in vouchers. I went to the shop and I was looking around at all the other stuff. I've got like 15,000 points of Painted Gardener, dude. I've got like everything that you could ever want. And then I walked into that shop and realized I did not. I had I needed to buy so much more stuff for my guard army. I got overwhelmed and I checked out. Like right there in that moment, I decided I'm just going to play Knights. I'm going to use this same money to buy a full Imperial Knights army, magnetize the whole thing, and have the whole shebang. And then since then, I've been either playing Chaos Knights or Imperial Knights, and I will be doing most likely dedicating myself to those two for the upcoming 12 months. So the next 12 months, I do not expect to be playing anything else, unless it's a teams event where we already have said players. And seeing as I'm a bit more wide with what I can play versus some other people who may only have like that army, and then I'll duck onto something else.
Yeah, good stuff. And we're focusing today on the Imperial Knights faction, Gate Warden Lance, which I feel like you've had some run with. I don't want to say, it's Knights. So compared to playing Guard or Admech or other factions, picking up and playing Knights is reasonably simple, right? But of the simpleness of Knights, Gate Warden Lance is kind of slightly trickier. I feel like it's the most difficult of the of the ones in the new book to kind of just go, okay, let's do it, because the other ones are all really easy, like easy. You know what I mean?
And interestingly enough, you say so knights are easy to play, and I have an opinion that knights are difficult to play well because you have so many units and so many activations. There's a demand upon yourself to do everything as correct as possible. And I learned this when I was playing Tau for Australia, Team Australia at WTC. And this is an extension of that mindset. When you're only operating one phase like Tau does, you have to do things more correctly because you don't have a catch-all or get out of jail free card of hitting a long charge or making something happen in a different phase. Knights are very much the same. Sure, you've got all the power of the sun in the palm of your hands, but if you don't apply it correctly, your army is far worse than everybody else's. So it's actually, I find the floor is high, but the ceiling is higher, if that makes sense on the skill expression of knights. Because as soon as you do something wrong, you lose 450 points, and you're like,
well, that's no movement, and it's like every podcast that you ever listen to where top players are talking to each other. Movement is the big thing that they always talk about.
Yeah.
When you have units that are not as durable as they used to be, and you put them in the wrong spot, then it's see you later. So,
and it really is the case at the moment for knights, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this at some point. But kind of everyone can kill a knight now. It used to be you could rock up and sometimes just rock paper scissors people out, but when like 5 JPI for 100 or something odd points rock up, hit you with a grenade, get a plasma pistol through, and then do 3 mortals on the charge, and you're like, that's 100 points. I'm toughness 11, 1,000,000 wounds. Why am I half dead to these 5 idiots? That kind of stuff happens all the time in 40k at the moment.
Yeah, man. I can't remember what they're called now, but I've got a buddy who does. He just favorite thing is to charge me with those. It's the chaos, the corn thing where they're basically riding rhinos and they charge wounds on the charge.
Blood crushes. Yeah,
they crush. Yeah, so charge me with 6 of those and roll 4 4-ups and then roll 12 more wounds on the charge. You're like, okay, well, I thought I was in a good spot.
Yeah, we've had for many long playing knight players, you will remember editions when bolt guns could not like mathematically hurt you, where you just had no fear of like small arms fire, and that is not the case anymore. They have those small arms fire, and then they like spend 1 CP, give them lethals plus oath, and you're like, why am I dying again? Yeah.
So it's a great way for us to get into where knights are in the meta. I've seen a couple of breakdowns which put us either at the bottom or very near the bottom of the meta at the moment. But to be honest, it's not my experience when I'm going to events. I still feel like relatively confident playing into a number of different armies. So
statistical analysis. Actually, the next podcast that's coming out for my show, Ada War Down Under, we do my faction tier list that I do pretty much every 3 months, and we're like second last. We're like second from the bottom. I don't count Imperial Ages, by the way, so we're third from the bottom if you count IA, and that's just pure statistical, pure stats, win-loss, how many times we are winning events or in a position to win events, stuff like that. And we're not doing that good. We can get wins, but it seems to be that when we hit the top of the meta, like we hit the top 3 or 4 armies, we just have no solutions. And I don't believe that's entirely true, but that seems to be the world's experience. So you can't really disagree with it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Okay, so it's an uphill battle for us at the moment. There is some hope that maybe things will change or get adjusted or whatever, but you can't rely on it.
I think it's fine. I honestly do not mind. I am totally down to be playing. I'm a person who's played against knights still a lot more than I have played knights, because I've played knights for less than like 12 months, but I've played against them for 10 years. And if I had to pick whether I want knights to be busted or weak, I would much rather them be weak, and me as a general try and find the ways and means within myself and my skills to bridge the gaps, rather than what we had, say, 6 months ago, where Canis goes burr and you win a game, which is exactly where we were at, where we had too many wounds and a feel no pain. Catan. Geez, where did that come from? Concrud got me. Oh, geez.
Yeah. So it's a different vibe now, and it has changed the way we have to think about playing. And for some of us old folks, it takes a little while longer to get used to it. Which brings us to where you're at. So we've done a bit of a deep dive on all of the different detachments in the book, and we even did the one that's not in the book, the Quest to Forge pack.
Yes.
Here's my weakness as a human being. So I've worked in radio and broadcasting for a really long time, and we very often do this thing, where you go out on site to a place that's having a sale, and you talk it up and you go whatever. I am such a sucker for things. I get so enthusiastic when people are enthusiastic in my direction. I buy in, right? Which is why last time I went to one of those things, I ended up going with a penguin, going home with a penguin-shaped waffle maker, because the woman was so hyped about it that I couldn't help but get hyped too. So I want to get hyped about Gate Warden Lance.
Well, came to the right place, mate. I call this the Johnny Cash detachment because you're walking that line.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
I have put on like Johnny Cash songs while I'm deploying and putting my line out and stuff. It's pretty fun, mate. It's pretty good. There's a lot of theme to get into here. But
as long as you don't eat the wrong food and get a ring of fire at the same time, then you'll be okay. So
this detachment has a lot of levels to it, and we can go as deep as you want into it, dude. Because
Well, so let's start just with the very basics for people who haven't tried it and have kind of forgotten what it's all about. This is the one where you basically pick 2 points on objectives and draw a line between, and then that becomes the line that everything operates off. That's your line. If you guys are standing on it or your opposition standing on it, everything kind of operates from that line. Correct. So my first question is, how do you make the line? Practically speaking, when you go to an event, what do you use?
Oh, I should have brought it up with me. I went to a haberdashery shop and I bought some ribbon, and it's pink. It's got sparkles on it. It's 40 millimeters wide, which is what you want. You want to go get yourself a 40 millimeter something, and it needs to be long enough to. The longest line you'll ever draw is from either your home to your opponent's home or from the expansion to expansion, and so you don't need it to be any longer than that. So measure that out, whatever that is. I had it written down somewhere. I don't know where it is now, but in the maps, that's as long on search and destroy. You just need it to be as long from their expansion to your expansion, and you never need a longer ribbon than that. And then you just fold it up when you want to do shorter. And there, so at the start of the battle formation step, you draw your line, you decide where it's going to be, and then you deploy your army. And now the line is everything. You have exactly one stratagem that works when you're not on the line. It's a very good strategy, by the way. It's quite good. But it's ostensibly
makes me want to bring a lancer in this detachment. But we'll get to this. I don't think it's a good idea to necessarily build an army around one stratagem. But
no, it's not quite. And it's not that good a stratagem, right? We've had stratagems back in the day where it's like, all I need is this one CP thing and my army goes. That's not quite what this is. Yeah. When you are not on that line, so when you're standing on the line, by the way, you will get sustained hits 1, shooting and fighting, and you'll also ignore hit modifiers. And now I thought the first part of that was the buy-in, which is exceptional. The second part of that's actually really good too, and I'll unpack that a little bit more as we go. But think about Infernal Lance, right? This is where I was when I was looking at it. I was like, everyone loves Infernal Lance for Chaos Knights. Everyone's losing their minds about giving their despoilers lethal or sus. Well, I don't need to pact and hurt myself. I just need to toe this line, and I get sus. I get sustained hits 1. And that's what everyone's losing their minds in about Infernal Lance. So I was like, maybe there's something here, because if that is so uber powerful on Knights, that puts Chaos Knights by itself into the top bracket as it was when that detachment came out. Surely this isn't as bad as it looks. And in some ways it is, in some ways it isn't. So the fact is every part of your army is compartmentalized around this line. And so if you can't leverage it, you don't really have any rules. And that's where the generalship comes in. You have to be able to draw that line accurately, take the knights to fit the ideology of where you're going to draw the line, and then execute. And it's actually it's got an extra failure point on top of other people's armies. Like you take Valor Strike, cool. I just have assault. I don't have to work for it. I don't have to extend myself, use my brain. Gate Warden has another level of thinking on top of it.
So now I don't know what order to do this in, because it feels like all of the layers have to work together. So trying to do this in a step-by-step chronological order feels a bit basic.
Well, let me.
How do you decide where to draw the line? It seems like a nice place to start.
You should decide where you're drawing the line while you're writing your list. This is where I came to with Gate Warden. The ideology of the line and where you intend to draw it should not really change. Let's say you're going to a 5-round GT. You should draw the same line probably 4 games out of 5. And that should be written into your list, written to match the knights you have in your list. For example, a Castellan does not make sense in this army unless you are almost always drawing the line from your home to your expansion. Does not.
Right.
It'll never make it to the midline if you draw from expansion to expansion. It'll never get there effectively, and your opponent has too much agency in stopping it. So the knights that you take and the units you select should always match where you intend to draw the line, game by game, mission by mission. And then you go a level further than that, and you should be deciding where you draw the line based on what the meta is. If it's a shooting meta, you're much more likely to want to draw the line home to expansion. If it's an aggressive or a melee meta, you still might want to draw home to expansion. If it's a bit of an all-comers, like you play against a lot of guard, a lot of shooting marines, stuff like that, those all-rounder armies, all-comers, expansion to expansion is the way to go all the time. I have never yet in my 10-ish games, 15-ish games with Gate Warden drawn from home to home. I think it's a trap. Right. Absolute trap. Yeah.
It seems like crazy
time. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So now getting deeper into the philosophy, before we get to the list that you've kind of maybe settled on or the basis of the list that you're kind of working on, let's stick with this philosophical discussion. For sure. How important then to build in things like because now I'm thinking about being on a line, you've got, for example, a shooting army, you've got a Castellan Crusader, whatever it is, you're on the line, that's in your mind where the game for you is going to operate. And if people are coming to you, they're going to be on the line, so you get to operate defensive strats, etc. How important then to build in screening units or units that can push out the front to stop everything just getting to your line and messing up your whole day?
So 100%. In my opinion, the most 100% you should always take in Gate Warden Lance unit is not a knight. It's a unit of breaches and a rogue trader entourage. That is the most important thing you can have in this detachment. It is the most 100% necessary auto take, because I've played so many games with this where I didn't have that unit in the beginning and I was getting to the line turn 3, turn 4, stuff like that. So I had no rules until the halfway point of the game. I might as well have been freaking Cowyon, where my rules don't kick in till the back end of the game, stuff like that. I played against Emperor's Children, played a lot of games against World Eaters, some against Demons, Blood Angel, stuff like that, where the pressure and the deterrent factor of getting close to them is enough that you don't end up getting to the line and doing that stuff. And in some of those games, I drew the line incorrectly and I was going expansion to expansion. Against an aggressive army, you almost always want to go home to expansion. Almost always you want to go, if you're playing against BA, the rule of thumb, home to expansion. Emperor's Children, home to expansion. Tyrion is even sometimes home to expansion. And any army that is going to put a like orcs, anything that's going to be like, if I go to you, you hurt me more, home to expansion.
Right.
If it's guard,
do you think that philosophically there's a shooting list, like a shooting detachment you want to be
I don't
shooting or not?
You will find, I think, the knights that shine the most in this, outside of, I think you do want to have one theoretical double dacker piece, and I call that double dacker knight, as in like an all shooting knight. I only got one of those. I think the best knights in this detachment are melee gun, like your errant, your paladin, your wardens, your things like that. Castigator is very good here too. I think those are the knights that you want the most, because you want. And in my opinion, the way I prefer to play this is I always want to draw expansion to expansion, and I want to build knights that work the best when they get the full breadth of the stratagem suite. Right. Just letting you know. So a paladin on the line in this detachment is probably the best knight in knights.
Wow.
When you talk about what
for a long time.
Yeah, so I'm just using Paladin as an example. It could be an Errant, could be a Warden, could be a Castigator. That knight is the best knight, I believe, in knights when you talk about what it can do. So that knight on the line has critical 5s, rerolls to hit in combat, sustain hits 2 if it doesn't move, has just the most insane number of buffs you can apply to it that take its ceiling over and above everybody else. And sure, you can say that, yeah, you could do the same thing with a Castellan or a Crusader, but not being able to activate the melee portion of the stratagem suite, which I think is very powerful, is, I think, huge. And so I was always wanting to have at least 2 of the melee and shooting knights in my lists. Okay.
So, and now, if I'm right, what you're saying about the buffs, that comes from the suite of stratagems that are available, like critting on 5s as a strat.
Yes.
And then you think about the Paladin. God, and I hadn't even thought about that. I was thinking having something critting on 5s like the Atropos, like the Castigator, or the I don't know, something that has a benefit to critting at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Atropos, where something's having sustained hits. Like if you've got something that has sustained hits available, critting on 5 suddenly becomes really good, as we remember from Canis. But the Paladin has so many freaking shots, man. And if you can give that sustained and critting on 5s, then that just becomes like that's.
Mate, I played against a Salamander's opponent who ran a full unit of Blade Guard with what's the Adrax, and then he had a unit of company heroes with Vulcan, and I one shot him with that Paladin, just like all gone, just the damage 3 gun into the 3 wound 1, and then just the top hats and the stubbers like pretty much cleaned up. I think I left Vulcan left on a couple of wounds, but just the stubbers with crit 5s and sus 2. Like cleaned up the company heroes like you wouldn't believe. And then but I also had Augury Halo on that guy, so we had extra AP and ignores cover, so that was like cherry ripe, couldn't get any better than that. And that's probably the best activation I'll ever have of a knight this season. Like,
so let's go back a step to just again getting into the building of, because I think it will depend a little bit on people's play style / preference. Like I always want to be bringing being a bit more aggressive and bringing things like the Atropos or the Errant. I love the Errant, or something, as you say, things that can shoot and fight. So, when I'm building a list, are you recommending that we look at the sort of home to expansion? Just because, say, for example, locally, just the number of World Eaters in our meta, Blood Angels in our meta, people here love Space Wolves. They love the aggressive style of play. We get some Tau, we get some Guard, but there's just a lot of the other stuff,
Yeah. Then you want to design a home to expansion style list, 100%. And it's so funny that like that's where this starts. The list construction starts at the line draw, rather than like what knights do I like? What's good into the game? No, you start with where you intend to where drawing the line is best for your meta, and then you start adding knights that complement that ideology. So in your case, the Castellan is so good when it can be deployed on the line, move on the line, all those things. So good. Castellan's fantastic. So like I'd say a Castellan Crusader Atropos or Castellan Crusader Castigator would be the best fit for what you're talking about. If you're talking about lots of that kind of stuff. But in saying that, like then you add your Rogue Trader Entourage. Then if there are a lot of CP expenditure lists out there, the Calidus holds a lot of value, and then you stop your allies there. That's your allies done. And then you just fill in with the knights that make the most sense to you. You look to what the bondsman abilities I'm getting by taking the knights that make the most sense to me, and you take either that complement them. And I'm still here, mate. It's been like 6 months later, and I'll tell you, a double grav cannon Moirax on the line. Ooh.
Okay. Well, here's the other thing to keep in mind, right? Is that for people who are playing Valor Strike or Spearhead, like the strats, I'm assuming now, because I should have thought of this, but they apply to all the knights, right? Not just the big knights or the little knights, but every Imperial knight, unless it specifies has to be Titanic or something. But so all the strats are available to all the knights.
Correct. There's nothing that's gated here. I mean, it's sandboxed enough by having to interact with the line, with the exception of, I'll let you guys know, Marshal the Defense, which is the one stratagem that we have that doesn't interact with the line. That is 1 CP, 2 knights get +3 move. And I like to think of this as 1 CP advance and charge on 2 knights, because of course your average roll on a D6 advance, is somewhere around a 3. And so 1 CP for 2 knights to get +3 move, that's essentially 2 knights getting advance and charge. And if you just look at it like that, it's a damn good CP. It's damn good CP. One of the best.
That makes me want to put a Lancer in there, like just for that.
Yeah, I mean, horses
can move 15 inches. No, hold on, 17 inches.
17 inches. That's right. I mean, if you take the pluses to move, advance, and charge and stuff, all of a sudden you are booking it. But yeah, so just running through the stats real quickly, we have a 1 CP shooting or fighting. If you are fighting something or shooting something that is on your line, you get critical 5s. Amazing versus, like you said, the World Eaters in the Space Wolves, because then when they come in, you try and use something like a Calidus to shut down their CP expenditure so they can't buff up, and then you just start chopping them. And you're on the line yourself, so you are sustained hits 1 with critical 5s, 12 attacks with a sweep on a chainsword, and you are just going to the moon. 1 reroll to hit, 1 reroll to wound, obviously baked in. We have 1 CP -1 to wound in melee if strength is higher than toughness. I have yet to have this come up on a big knight, but I have used this to save a little knight. I have used this to save an armiger before.
Right.
Where is this mythical? Where is this mythical? Strength 12. That's hurting us, because the issue with this is it doesn't work when your opponent has +1 to wound, and most of the time people are hitting you with like strength 8 lance and stuff like that, and like blood angels and things like that. So nothing's really hitting you with the strength characteristic of higher than 11 for you to use this. But unless
you've got like a Bellicor or an Abaddon or something coming at you.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
1 CP fight phase if you're fighting on the line. 4 rerolls to hit. This combos so well with the critical 5s. I've used this to ridiculous effect, even on stompy feet, even on your stompy little feetsies. To just be like, oh, I just need to kill 5 Marines here. I've got 4 attacks, but I have sus, so I'm going to give myself 4 rolls to hit, and all of a sudden I kill the 5 Marines, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then if you're looking at the sweep attack on a damage, with the fist with damage 3 sweep attacks. Then when you're up against those, the Vitrix Guard or whatever, I don't know, lots of things have 3 wounds, but even the sweep attacks on the 2 wound thing, if you're facing Marines, you've got a unit of 10 suddenly it becomes really good. Rerolling and sustain.
Correct.
Okay, you're selling me on it. See, I knew this would happen. Like, I'm getting hype.
But this is what I mean when you talk about everything. When you are on the line, these are the best knights in our book.
Right.
But they can only be this way on the line, and it's a kind of a struggle. Then we have Titanic.
So once we go through the rest of the strats, we'll get to the big stuff. How do you stay on the line? How do you get to the line and stay on it? But strats first, because this is really good.
1 CP Titanic Bombardment. If you didn't move, you get sustain hits 2 when you're on the line instead of sustain hits 1, which is mind-bendingly bonkers. And then last one, this has actually become my favorite strat. So this is Fortress of Intimidation. It's 1 CP, start your opponent's charge phase. You select one of your knights, and everything that tries to charge it has to take a -1 battle shock. And this is one of the reasons I actually stopped taking the Calidus, because you kind of can just put the thought in their head that they can't use their strats anyway, and get most of the mileage that a Calidus would bring, and then you open yourself up to bringing Sisters and Immolator and stuff like that. Pivoting into Artemis or saving a few points here and there for the rest of your allies suite. But yeah, that one has saved my bacon so many times, being like, well, this is the knight on the line on the middle objective. You can't really you're a melee army, so you can't really not interact with this guy without giving me a 15. Well, everyone's going to take a battle shock if you want to try and charge this dude. And and there are so many armies in the game that need to use CP in melee to kill a knight, to like top to bottom knight, and so putting that thought in their head really messes with their game plans.
And as you say, the thing of being a knight, the big knight with lots of wounds, very often they have to charge with more than 1 unit, right? They're charging a couple of units, and so they're really taking a risk on one of those units not being able to access the strats they need.
I mean, I was playing in an Emperor's Children game, and of course that's already a very good matchup for us, but I put, for that exact example, I put my Aaron on the line, used that on him, and he failed like 4 of the 5. He had to charge him because they can only kill knights via committee, and he failed like 4 of the 5. And I was just like, dude, if you don't kill me, I just hold this objective because I'm OC 10 and all the guys with good OC failed. So
when does that activate? I'm just thinking if for example, someone uses a stratagem so they can advance and charge, for example. Now I can't think of a specific example where this necessarily happens, but if they have to spend that strat in the charge phase. They say, I'm going to charge that thing, or I'm spending my strat. They probably would spend that first, right? So
so this happens at the start of your opponent's charge phase, and the reading is the reading is until the end of the phase. Each time an enemy unit selects your target as a target of a charge, must take a -1 battle shock. So it's at the start of the charge phase.
Failed the battle shock, then they wouldn't be able to do it.
Correct. It is a little bit of a gotcha. So yeah, that's the one. That's the kind of one where you'd be like, tell your opponent ahead of time, and then if they walk right into it, I guess they walk right into it. But always play that face up. And in fact, the best thing about it is playing face up, in my opinion, and making your opponent have to worry about it. And so yeah, that's your stratagem suite. And when you talk about it, like, there's nothing really else in Knights that gives us crit 5s. There's no 1 CP sus 2. There's no 1 CP rerolls to hit even in our book. And that all lives in this detachment, but you got to leverage it. You got to make it matter.
Okay. So, and here's where we get to the crux of the issue. And this is, I think, where I struggle with it, trying to imagine it, trying to figure in my brain how I'm going to play. It feels restrictive. It feels like, hold on, I don't want to be on the line for the whole game, but maybe you don't need to be. So tell me, or tell us how you practically make the most of this being on the line situation.
And I will try and give you my learnings on this with my dozen or so games. But I lost a major. I was playing on top table with this detachment at an event called RatCon, and I lost to World Eaters because I got too locked into the line. I refused to. I should have abandoned the line on turn 4 and just started rushing him down and taking away his expansion and stuff like that. And I lost by 1 freaking point because on turn 4 I didn't leave the line, and turn 5 I was trying to bridge the gap in points, which I could have been able to, but ended up falling short by 1 point. And so that's because I didn't lead the line on turn 4. So you have to kind of like, this is not a list that you can pick up. This is not a detachment you can pick up and feel like you know it all until you've got a decent amount of reps. I would not suggest someone takes this to a competitive event before playing it like 5 times, maybe even 10 times, until you have it in your head, where's the line going in every matchup I'm likely to come to, because drawing the line incorrectly will just lose you the game.
Got it.
So you want to get your big knights, obviously big knights on the line, but the armigers I found do not get a huge amount of return. So you always want to play this not too dissimilarly to your armiger spearhead, your armiger detachment, where in my opinion this list works best as a 3 big 4 to 5 smalls and then allies. That's how I think this breaks down. And after my iterations in my play, I've always found that I want 3 big knights. They can be Questoris, they can be Cerastus, doesn't really matter. They're all relatively good, depending on whether you want to play the shooting or the mixed. And then those guys are sitting on the line most likely for the first 3 turns. They're almost on Overwatch duty, where they're just like, the line is death to you, to your opponent. If you come near my line, you are dead smoked. And which is kind of the reason why I think the best versions of this list are ones built around expansion to expansion design on the line, but the meta dictates a lot of where the line can be and can't be for the matchups. So 3 big knights on the line, minimum a couple of turns. They're going to be there, touching into terrain pieces, bugging off, making sure your opponent can't use this lane, this lane, this lane, etc., etc. And then you kind of want to have a little cloud of armigers out the front, and that's after you have already walled them off, so you get access to your line thanks to the use of your breaches and rogue trader entourage. So their pure existence is there for you to hold space, so your opponent can't pressure you off getting on the line. And that's one of the biggest issues I found. Going second versus Blood Angels, going second versus World Eaters, going second versus some of these super aggressive armies, some of the Templar lists and stuff like that. And even I mentioned there's a Tyrannid army that I've played that, whereas like, oh, if I push forward, I am screwed. But yeah, Rogue Trader Entourage goes up, walls them off in as much a fashion as possible. They don't really need to extend to their deployment zone. They just need to hold you space so that you have your expansion to middle part of the line accessible. And then turn 1, you either go +3 move on 2 small knights or +3 move on 2 big knights, and they're on the line immediately. Bang, they're just there. I did find in a couple of my iterations I was using a defender, and my defender would just sit home, and it's the purpose of the defender was to make sure what I was putting on the line, the armigers, was something of relevance, because I found without having an actual defensive buff in this, because I don't think the -1 to wound in just fighting is an actual. I don't think it's real. I think that stratagem is almost not even there, because I've yet to use it. I've not used it once in 12 games, because those strength profiles just don't exist en masse. And so Rogue Trader Entourage protects your access to the line. Get your big knights on the line, hunker down for 2 or 3 turns, blow your opponent off their expansion with as much efficacy and prejudice as possible, and then turn 4, think whether you have to leave or not, and be willing to leave is the issue. Because you are so much stronger, you are dead set like 100% better of a knight when you're on the line. Leaving it is is a pain point. You're like, but if I'm on the line, I'm so much better. But if I don't leave the line, I don't get points. And that's what I'm trying to impart here. You have to be willing to leave the damn thing, even though it is all of your rules.
Yeah, and I know. I see. This is the stupid thing. I'm listening to a player who's so much better than me, who also has experience in the detachment, and I'm thinking, I still want to bring a Lancer because I feel like then I get to leave the line because he doesn't care about the line.
Bring it. So do you know what? I reckon we can design you a Lancer list if you want. We'll give it a go maybe after you're done with your career.
Still, like if the Lancer is getting sustained hits on the line in the fight phase, still good, right? I mean, this is
yeah. Well, you talk about the best Lancer you can take is a Lancer that has Pennant of Silver Fury in Companions, which has once per game sustained hits 2. What if you had a Lancer that had sustained hits 1 all game? So and rerolls to hit, because God, my Lancer loves to miss, right? Ones into ones all the dang time. Just the worst Lancer. My Lancer is the worst Lancer, I think. The dude sucks.
I feel that way about my Castellan. For some reason, that sucker never does anything. Anyway,
man, last time I played the Lancer, I charged into Morven Vaal and the Paragons. Did one mortal on the impact. Did not kill a Paragon Warsuit. Did not kill one on the charge.
Those suckers are hard to kill, though. I had the exact same experience with an Atropos with 2 rounds of shooting, and then in combat killed one thing. They just 4-ups.
Yeah.
It's like Custodes. Anyway, so coming back to the practicalities of being on the line. Do you know what? Just a question's just occurred to me that I need to ask you. So I'm going to come back to it now because it's a beginning of the game question. When you're picking your deed and your ability in Gate Warden, is there a particular one you do, or is it what we all do, which is kill more units and rerolls? Or do you go from the
Gate Warden is not a bad one to be picking hold more in. If you are drawing from expansion to expansion and you have access to the line through the middle objective, going for hold more isn't the worst thing in the world. I usually default to kill more, but it's very matchup dependent. Those two, unlike the vast majority of the games I've played with Knights, and I'm somewhere in the region of like 40 games with Imperial Knights now. In almost all my games, I default to kill more. In Gate Warden, I found it was almost 60-40. 40% of the time, I would take hold more. And I will tell you, if we build your Lancer list, that one will be trying to play hold more. That the modus operandi of that list will be winning on hold more.
In terms of the you rerolls, I guess not movement, because you want to be on that line, so it's not as important to be pushing forward. So
but in saying that, because you have access to sustain hits, you have access to rerolls to hit in combat. I found the rerolls didn't come up anywhere. I wasn't anywhere near as chained to that as I was in others. Because of course, one reroll to hit on a 12-shot gun, like a Warden or a Castigator, is actually worse than sustained. It's actually mathematically worse than sustained. So you're rolling 18 dice, you're going to roll 3 ones, but you're also going to roll 3 6s. So they're all going to convert and lock each other out. So it's pretty much just re-rolling a 2. And I found that one re-roll of a 2 doesn't really change whether I was going to kill the thing or not kill the thing. And so you do, if you want, I think exclusively in this detachment, have the freedom. If you wanted to go extra move, you could. But I still think you take the re-rolls almost all the time.
What about, though, if you're, for example, if you're going, okay, I want to hold more, maybe you pick the one that gives you better OC as your starting point for holding stuff? I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff around.
Yeah, it's perfectly viable. I don't think it's particularly amazing, but I did have a thought in my head of my defender with one of the enhancements. So one of the interesting enhancements that I tried a couple of times to try and make work, I ended up not really going with it, is Acquisitor at Arms, which is while the bearer is on your defensive line and there are no enemy units on your defensive line, add the bearer's objective control characteristic to that of each model affected by the bondsman ability. So you can make a OC 16 armature with -1 damage that sits on the middle. And that's pretty cute. So here's an interesting thing. If you are taking Acquisitor at Arms, and here's Adam's hot tip after having played it about 3 or 4 times, if you're playing Acquisitor at Arms, don't draw the line all the way through the middle objective from expansion to expansion. Just draw from your expansion to the middle. It's going to break your brain a little bit. It's going to break your brain because you're like, but I could have such a longer line. But then your opponent gets to turn it off because if your opponent is on their expansion and you can't see them, like in pretty much every table that we play, you can't really see from your expansion to your opponent's expansion. That's lunacy. Your opponent just puts one little idiot on that and turns off this ability. Whereas if you just draw from expansion to middle, that guy is safe as beans because his entire base covers all parts of the line that could be on that middle objective. So they can't actually turn it off the middle objective without being in combat with you. And it actually becomes a little bit of a wrinkle to leverage.
Yeah, nice. So now, assuming you don't take that, because where have you arrived at with the enhancements? Have you decided that's not really worth?
Nah. The only enhancement I think that is always worth taking is Augury Halo. And that's you get Ignores cover when you're on the line. That's the only one that I have found every single game has paid out. The others are pretty much build your list and see what's left. Purgation's Hand is not bad. That gives you real ones to hit and ones to wound. It only in melee when you're on the line. And I found that's not worth it. If I have one reroll to wound and reroll to hit, plus I have one CP rerolls to hit already if I'm on the line, it kind of doesn't add up. And then Vengeful Tread is like your 15-point free tank shock. If you got 15 left, chuck it on there. Why not? It's not too bad. It saves you a CP.
The Ignores cover though on a Paladin. Again, we were talking about the Paladin earlier on. There we go. We've got a gun that is only AP1 and everything gets covered. But if it's ignoring cover with sustained hits, 2, did you say you can get it? And
if it doesn't move,
and holy crap.
Yeah, dude. The thing. I had a Paladin on the line in the event I was talking about, and my opponent threw a unit of 10 Berserkers in Karn and a unit of 8 bound in, and I managed to battle shock with the stratagem. I managed to battle shock the Berserker unit, so they couldn't use the extra AP. I ended up surviving on 3 wounds. Just the top hat with crit 5 sus 2 killed the 3 8 bound, and then just the stubbers with crit 5s because their strength 4 AP 2 ignores cover. Killed like 5 Berserkers. Just the 12 shots of the stubbers did 10 wounds to Berserkers. Wow. And so good. So
the other gun, the big gun is it Blast?
It is Blast.
Here's a cute combat, but you could shoot at something else.
And you are on the line, so you take no hit penalties when you're shooting out of combat. And this is why I like multimodal knights, because the idea is you're on the line just smashing dudes that are on the line with your melee while you're still shooting out of combat without any downsides, without any penalties.
Yeah. Just if we can break that down just a little bit, because we have made a lot of the sustained hits, but you're right. The other part of that is ignoring. So give us the whole thing. It's ignoring modifiers to the hit roll.
Each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets a visible enemy unit, you can ignore any roll modifiers to the hit roll, and weapons equipped by models in this unit have sustained 1. So any roll modifiers to the hit roll, that's also degrading, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so you don't, if you're on 3 wounds shooting out of combat, you are still at a full health profile knight. You take no negatives to hit.
Shooting something that's popped smoke.
Yeah.
So there's nothing else to that. It's just modifiers to the hit roll. Okay.
You can ignore any or all modifiers to the hit roll.
It's just the hit roll. Okay.
Just the hit roll.
I want to clarify. Got it. Because they're different things. All right. So that's really strong. And I'm loving the idea of a Paladin more and more just because it's much cheaper and gives you other options too.
Correct. I think the Paladin for me, the Paladin is my favorite knight in this detachment and is my auto included. Might not be your favorite once you've played it or people at home if they're giving it a try, but it's mine and I'm going to keep it.
Yeah. And the fact that it can operate in the fight phase as well. This is why I love the Atropos, because it's actually better in the fight phase than in the shoot. People love the shooting of the Atropos, but man, it's actually even better in the fight phase.
It is. Well, I love an Atropos. I don't love it as many as other knight players who feel like Atropos is the bee's knees. Atropos to me is just slight bit inconsistent because of how many shots it's got. If you're shooting at a single target, you could end up with 1 shot from each gun and being like, whoop-de-doo. A Warden would have done more because it has 18 all the time. Even though the profile would be terrible into like a Repulsor Executioner or something like that, it still sometimes does more damage than Atropos because you just low roll the number of shots. It's just one extra level of variable I don't love all the time. But still, I still think Atropos is a sick.
Just so you know, sorry to interrupt you, but which I keep doing, and I apologize.
Dude,
but
whatever, it's your show.
I have this thing where I, if something earns a name, then I name it after someone I respect and admire. My Atropos is Adam.
You're a cutie.
And there is no ambiguity here. He's named after Adam Camilleri. So my Atropos is Adam.
Who's your Lancer named after?
Lawrence. I have Lawrence the Lancer, who's named after my friend and yours, Lawrence from Tabletop Tactics. So
nice. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and the other Lancer is just called Lancer at the moment. I've got two in my two Lancers on my shelf.
Was he the one who failed you?
they have both at times. Let me down. But having all of our units at times had days where you just go, or games or moments, probably battle rounds where you just go, that could have gone better. Anyway, sorry, where were
I'm going to add one more reason to love the Paladin.
Yeah.
So the Paladin combos really well with the +3, the bondsman ability combos really well with the +3 move strat. So a lot of the time I found when I was building this list, I was wanting sometimes 1 Helver and 3 Warglaves as my build out. I would take 4 Warglaves if I could. I can't because battle line. But putting the Paladin ability on a Warglaive and then giving it +3 move, and so it has assault with reroll advances and +3 move, and then just using that to go and prey on my opponent's expansion, like every turn, sending out a Warglaive to disrupt their expansion. I've found that combos very well with this stratagem and detachment, and so that guy a lot of the time.
How does he get assault?
The Paladin bondsman ability. Oh wait, am I thinking? No, apologies. I'm thinking about the errant. Yeah. Sorry, I was about to say, but throw out a love to the errant because that combos really well. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a massive fan. Love the errant.
I freaking love the errant, dude. One of my games, that game where I got swarmed by all the Emperor's children, the errant just like lifted up its melter lance and pointed it at a demon prince that didn't make the charge, and I was just like, dunk, get out of here, because I shot out of combat with no penalties, and I just like, 3s, yep, cool,
and and he's +1 to hit the closest thing, right? So you're hitting on 2s actually if you're shooting.
Yes, correct.
He's in combat. That won't.
He's in combat. He's not. But yeah, doesn't matter. 3s with sus with a reroll. 3s with a reroll. Fail to get out of here. Like just fail 2 saves, you are gone. D6 plus 6. But yeah, so errant is another one that I find gets a lot of mileage here. Crusader gets a lot of mileage here. I always want that at least one double Dacker Knight. That can be a defender if you want. I don't hate a defender in Gate Warden. I think it's not too bad. But the thing is, the defender only works in the expansion to expansion ideology in my mind, because what you're trying to do is just put -1 Warglaves on the middle every turn. You're just trying to re-rack them onto the middle, make your opponent continue every turn to deal with one of these, and then stress out their anti-tank assets. And then, in return, every time they have to bring out a decent anti-tank asset to pick this guy up, you pick it up, and eventually they run out of ability to deal with that, and then throw your 3 big knights at them.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, so that's that little tempo play, and that play, by the way, works in every single knight's detachment for what it's worth. Just
well, let's get to the questions that people have been asking. We've given people on our Patreon, by the way. Shout out to our Patreon members. Thank you for supporting the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. Jake Thundersnake, since the line is so apparent, how do you keep any element of surprise?
You do not. And that's one of the biggest issues. That's the biggest. I believe that is the biggest downside of Gate Warden Lance. You are face up AF. This is one of them. This is one of the most face up things you can do. But the way you leverage it is as a deterrent. You're like, well, cool. I have a line of death running from my expansion to your expansion, which you have to avoid for 5 turns of the game. And if you are,
Sorry, if they are in their, anywhere near their expansion or coming towards the middle, they actively have to avoid standing on your line, right? Because as soon as a unit crosses the line, and this is particularly, I'm thinking of like the big units of dudes that want to swarm out across the board. If they are crossing that line, then you have activations into them, you have bonuses into them, right?
Yep. There are very few games that can be won by your opponent whilst entirely avoiding the line. Tau, one of the ones that can do it, where they can just sit in their DZ, you like and wait for Carrion to activate and then rush you and stuff like that. Or they can get on you earlier and keep you off the line. And that's what I find usually. People who have played multiple times versus this now have stated the best thing they feel like they can do to me is stop me getting on the line.
Right.
Stop me activating all my rules and just keep me as big dumb robots, essentially. So that's what you've got to worry about, is that when you draw your line, your opponent knows exactly where you want to put your knights. But if you can flip this, on your opponent, because you're using it as a deterrent, being like, my army gets so much better if I get here. But at the same time, if their army gets there, you also get better against them. You have so many melee buffs that if they're on the line, you just pick them up out of hand. So you kind of, that's what I mean about leveraging. You have to make the line something that matters, because the worst thing that can happen is you don't make it to it and then they run right past it, which is why the Rogue Trader entourage, I believe, with the breaches is 120% necessary. That's the only auto include I think this list has.
And you're kind of throwing it away, right? But it's important to have it there for the first turn.
So what you're trying to stop is your armages. So first turn, of course, if you're drawing expansion to expansion, you're going to +3 move and get 1 or 2 knights on that line. But the thing is, you're not going to put any of those knights on objectives, and this is where the wrinkle is, because of course it's in so many of our terrain formats, you can't really hide a big knight and be on an expansion objective. They're going to have angles. If they've got any fast guns, they're going to get you. So first turn, it's usually armigers are advancing onto the middle, and that's what you need to not get stopped, because they can be blocked so easily by infiltrating unit, some Gretchen with Zodrog, freaking infiltrators and curses, whatever. You need to stop those things stopping you from getting on the line turn 1, and then you need to take that position yourself so they can't stop the big knights on turn 2. Because what I've had happen is versus Blood Angels, they have had a couple units of JPI, and they literally put them on the line so I can't move on it in my shooting phase. They literally body block, and the way they do it, if they're good, is all they do is place it in the position where you have to touch to see through the ruins to use towering. And so here's one idiot JPI touching the corner of the line that crosses the terrain piece that would allow you to shoot my Repex or something like that. And all of a sudden you're like, cool, one dunce has stopped my army having rules. Well played. And that's what they'll do to you if you let them. So you need that RTB to just block that off and make sure you gain access to your rules.
And that is our only access to infiltrate outside of the Calidus, right? Is the Rogue Trader entourage, and maybe.
I advocate also, if you want to save points, don't take the breaches. You don't need that bigger unit. You can do it with Voidsman as well if you want a smaller unit. It's only 11 guys rather than the 14 or whatever the other one is.
But then the rule doesn't apply about being able to pick them up and put them down for some reason.
Yeah, then it's just throwaway. But you save some points if you want to move some stuff around. Like if you're taking more, if you want to take like Atropos, Castellan, Crusader, you might find yourself a little bit leaner on points when it comes to buying your allies, and there is some work around there, because all you need to do is just make sure you have access to the line.
Got it. Daniel Gallant wants to know, given the suite of strats for Valorstrike, Gate Warden, and Quest of Companions, which one do you feel is the best suite in the hands of a top competitive player? Which suite of stratagems? So
the most powerful is Gate Warden. Gate Warden has the most powerful stratagems in our book, but it's not the best, unfortunately.
What about for a newer player? Like or is there a difference for top competitive versus newer? Is kind of where Daniel was going with this question.
Statistically, based on like meta-analysis, Companion seems to be the best suite in the hands of a top player. I have yet to see, outside our great friend Mr. Jones on your show, I've yet to see another top player start getting like those top 8s with Valorstrike. Whereas I have seen quite a few Companions get up there using usually 5 bigs. But that's just kind of rolling the rock, paper, scissors on the matchups and hoping 5 bigs carries the day, which it can. In a lot of team events, though, in pretty much all the big team events, there was a Nationals event over at the Alpine Cup where there was, I think the Austrian national captain was playing 5 bigs Companions and only dropped 1 game, and it was only an 8-12. He went 4-1 with 5 bigs Companions, and he did really well. So if anybody's interested there, that's one to watch for teams.
Yeah, we're going to be talking actually in the next couple of days as a little bonus episode to a fella who went 5-0 at a teams event with 5 bigs as well, and is going to take 5 bigs to Cherokee.
Ooh, that's bold.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see what.
I'm always of the opinion for singles play, take 4 in allies, in companions, and same for yeah. That's just my opinion.
Or take 4 and I take 4 a baby and some allies or whatever. Anyway, we're talking about Gate Warden today, and AJV. This is a great question. The line is the most important element of the detachment. Most of the strats and abilities only work with knights on it. How important are non-knight units such as agents to make plays on other objectives or areas that are not on the line?
Extremely. Like I said, apologies. Like I said, yeah, Rogue Trader Entourage and the Breaches are in every one of my lists. Where you go from there is up to you. I did play my original list that I played to that major that I played on the top table at. I had sisters. I didn't have my Rogue Trader Entourage and Breaches ready to go, so I played a unit of sisters and Immolator and stuff like that. I found they worked quite well also. Yeah, but I couldn't protect. There was 2 games where, like I said, I didn't get in the lines until turn 3 and turn 4 in those 2 games. And that's because I didn't have protection for it. So they are, in my opinion, the most important bit, unfortunately, because ostensibly any knight that gets to the line is good. Just going to say that there is a full stop at the end of that sentence. Any single one of our knights that gets to the line, I'm talking big knights, by the way. The armigers are fine, but you can buff them in enough other ways that they're fine regardless. Any big knight that makes it to the line is a superstar, is a freaking superstar. Yeah. And the issue is not getting to the line. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's, if we can, real quickly go through the Discord questions that we've got as well. Shout out to the Discord for folks. It's free, man. Just go join the Discord. You get access to some amazing brains in this Discord, and it's also just cool to be able to bounce ideas off people and have a conversation with like-minded folk. John, Possum Handler, we've kind of answered your question about the allies. I feel like this is something that people are asking. How do you mitigate the lack of any serious defensive stratagems? You kind of mentioned that already. There is, but to be fair, I don't think we've got any serious defensive stratagems anymore in any of the detachments, with the exception of a rotate in one of them. That's it.
Companions has a 6-up feel no pain. That's it.
Yeah,
we have rotate, 6-up feel no pain. The defensive strat here is because the one with the -1 to wound to strength is higher. Like I said, is not real. The actual defensive strat is the battle shock strat. That's the actual defensive strat, which only works versus melee armies. So it's actually not that good. But having that and leveraging that is very important to your prospects. If you have a big knight, like turn 3, if you have a big knight on the line on your expansion objective in a melee matchup, they have to answer it. They have to answer it. Or if you do the same in the middle with a big knight, like on turn 3, they have to answer it. And so you're making failure points. You're putting failure points into their plan. This is why, to Steve's effect, I don't hate a Lancer, because it's the most durable by default. And in a melee matchup, it always is just like, oh crap, if he high rolls me. Well, what if you were battle shocked, didn't get your lance or your lethal hits stratagem, and you had to fight that idiot on the line with his 4-up involved? You know, there are very few units that go through that guy when they are battle shocked.
And to your point, like, a lot of this is just putting it in the head of the opponent, right? Hey, man, you might not get access. And if you don't, I'm almost certainly going to wipe you out in return. Correct. So charge me. Go for it. But if it doesn't work out, it's screwed. Yep. Yeah, just kind of like letting people know, right? James says, in regards to ITC, WTC terrain, are the big changes you'd make to your list and your play style? How terrain dependent is this?
It's moderately terrain dependent. So ostensibly, this is a more than likely you are trying to leverage the shooting buffs more than the melee buffs. The melee buffs are your cleanup stratagems. You're okay, cool. You're on the line. I have to get rid of you. You're on middle objectives. I have to clear you. They make them very effective there. But your projection of damage just comes. You are very rarely, if ever, going to be charging a big knight into your opponent's deployment zone. That's just not a thing that this detachment does. Your army extends to the midboard and hunkers down there, and then forays onto their expansion, and never goes to their DZ pretty much ever, unless they've had a full collapse and you go chuck a knight on it. Sorry, what was the question?
Just about the terrain, how
The
terrain
terrain, yes.
the
Yes.
listability.
So obviously this is slightly better on Games Workshop terrain. The new UK TC format is much more better for melee matchups. So you definitely don't want to be trying to do the expansion to expansion as much. You want to just plan to have your shooting assets better and go home to expansion. And so the home to expansion is like, so in so many of our formats, I don't know if people can see what I'm doing right now. You just want to, this is all about the triangle, as everyone always says.
This is a little plug for our YouTube now. So if you're just listening on a podcast app, we love you, we appreciate it, but you do have access now to our YouTubes. So if you go to 40kbynight.com, the link is there, or you can search 40k by night on YouTube, and you can see what Adam is about to demonstrate with a hastily drawn graphic on screen. Oh, okay, we kind of can see it. So that's all right. Just use the thing.
Right. There's your line, expansion to expansion, yeah? This is your triangle.
Yeah.
Your triangle is this. It is those three. So
okay.
your home, your expansion, and the middle.
Expansion in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your triangle. So you want to have like two big knights, and I've just put little circles inside the triangle. Two big knights on the inside of that circle, touching the line. Those guys need to be able to touch a terrain piece and have access to a field of fire. Analyze your terrain packs that you have access to. If that is not a thing, you must design your list to go home to expansion. You must design your archetype list to go drawing a line from home to expansion every game. If you do not have access to a terrain piece that you can tow into whilst being on the line when you draw it from expansion to expansion,
got it.
Inside your triangle, home to expansion it is every time. And you just take the Daka Knights and blow them up.
Yeah. Okay. The other great thing I just keep thinking about is just the base size of knights, because you have to be touching the line. You could be touching it from behind the line or in front of that. That's still a reasonable amount of movement back and forth.
Yep. It absolutely is. And in the vast majority, in the vast majority of terrain formats, you'll have access to two good ruins that you can sit behind and then walk onto, touching the line and touching the terrain piece, and have access to a big field of fire. And that's what you want to do. That's what you want to line yourself up for. WTC, there are 100%, 120%, probably about a third of the WTC tables have the 12-inch ruins in the middle.
Yeah.
Bad time for Gate Warden. You are drawing from home to expansion every one of those tables. And so I do think WTC is a little worse for Gate Warden than the other two formats.
Andy and Brum, 3 big, 4 littles, and then assassins, and then agents. Yeah, that's kind of where we've arrived, right?
Yeah. So my example list, after I updated it, just this. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Adam is feeling under the weather, as we have mentioned. Every now and then, be take a minute.
My updated list from the one I took to this is the one I've been playing lately. It's a lot more fun than taking the Defender. It's Crusader, it's Errant, it's Paladin with Augury Halo, 1 Helverin, 3 Warglaves, Calidus, and the Breaches and Rogue Trader Entourage. 2,000 points on the nose. 3 bigs, 4 smalls, and one assassin and some bits and pieces.
So with the Errant and Warglaves interaction, you can give 2 Warglaves assault. Sorry, not assault. You can give 2 Warglaves extra 3-inch movement, and one of those can get assault for even further movement. So that's getting, you're putting a tank-killing beast into range every time.
Yep. So they're moving 15 plus D6 rerollable. So you can totally go 21 inches, which almost always gets you in melter range. Yeah, with one of them. The other one's going 15 and just shooting. And this is your expansion disruption play. Every turn, Warglaive goes to disrupt their expansion with all the goodness. Sometimes a lot of the time on turn 1, this is how you disrupt your opponents. If you go second, is how disrupt it. And on turn 2 onwards, you should just only need the +3 move. So you keep your option open for the charge. Gotcha.
Men and Knights. Dan, we've already discussed how you mark the line. With a pretty ribbon. Nothing says 40k like pink with sparkles.
Oh yeah,
on your ribbon. I love that. Captain Jake Fish, likely be covered in the breakdown. What factors would make you choose something other than the 2 objectives across the field? So I think we've kind of covered that off pretty well.
And I will reiterate, your list should be designed around where you're putting the line, not the other way around. The line ideology is the first thing you decide when putting knights into your list.
Okay. And in general, like, because for someone of limited brain capacity like myself, if you're going home to expansion, does that mean you are by design choosing more shooty knights that
Correct.
are likely to just want to stand back and shoot the crap out of stuff? If you're choosing expansion to expansion, are you more likely to go stuff that can also cope in melee?
100%. That's the easy. That's probably the easiest way to say it. And yeah, like Steve just said, if you're going expansion to expansion, you're going to play a more aggressive game. In saying that, like I said, this isn't something that ever goes and charges into your opponent's deployment zone. You are just playing the mid board a lot heavier, and you are willing to go and scrap and do what you need to do. If you're playing home to expansion, you take all the DACA, you tow into ruins, you blow them up.
Right. Great stuff. Hog Knight wants to know what kind of split you dedicate to having knights on and off the line. I really think, Hog Knight, that is covered by Adam's statement. If it's on the line, it's amazing. If it's not on the line, it's less amazing. Yeah. But also that ability to let the line go at the end when you just need to spread out and get points.
Correct. Right? Let it go. Like I said, I would have won a major if I had to let go of the line on turn 4 instead of holding back. In saying that, armigers don't need to be on the line very much. Your armigers are totally fine. Their bondsman abilities and all the rails and stuff, they need to be active on the table. Your big knights should be on the line from turn 1 onwards, with the exception of if you need to leave a big boy home, and that's about it.
Is Canis useful in Gate Warden with the ability to get free strats?
Not really. He already has sus built into all his profiles, so he gets like 0 value out of this detachment, almost 0 value. Unfortunately, I found him to be, because of the points, I could have an errant that is Canis for like 50 less points.
I guess
and
the
sure
same
that
applies to the Anthropos, which I love in every other detachment, but in this one, he's getting 0 value.
Correct. It's so there is a case to say it's not bad to take one line agnostic big knight, and that's where I was going to go if we designed a Lance-like list. I've yet to find that I have the time to have a knight not on the line. I always want to have a knight on the line. I always want to have 2 knights on the line, 3 knights if I can. And so that's not a road I've crossed yet, where I'm like, cool, I'm just going to chuck in an Atropos because it can go operate by itself regardless, and I'm just going to +3 move the guy every turn.
I do love the baby knights get the buffs as well, because I've been thinking mostly in terms of the big knights and what they get out of this, but the baby knights getting the buffs is something that I'll need to get my head around, because there just feels like so much you can do with them.
So one of my favorite plays that I've pulled off so far, and I've done it twice, is that I have a big knight on an expansion in aggressive matchup. I've done this with Blood Angels and World Eaters, and then I have a threatening heroic from an Armiger Warglade that isn't on the line, and then I heroic it onto the line, and then they disrespected it, thinking, oh yeah, if it heroic, it's not going to do that much damage. It's got 5 attacks or whatever, and then you're like, rerolls the hits. I've got sus. Chop. So it's not nothing, but I'm just saying it doesn't massively make them explode in efficacy like it does a big knight. So don't feel like they're chained to the line anywhere near as much, because that's a trap.
Micah, we've answered your question. Andy had examples of his own ribbon placement.
Gorgeous.
Pretty red ribbon. So listen, thank you so much to the folks that asked questions. 40kbynight.com is the website. That is where you'll be able to go and get the YouTube, so you can see Adam's no expense spared graphic demonstration of your triangle, your lovely triangle, and just how to work it. I also want to do a big shout out to you, mate. Thank you for not just, I mean, I love that you come on the show, but just the massive amount of work you put into this hobby, and the expertise that we have access to, thanks to all of the other podcasts that you do. So thanks for the massive amount of time invested, including getting up early in the morning in Australia to be on this stinking show, Australia time. Was an early start. So,
dude, doesn't matter how much content I do, it's still an honor to come on your show. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Folks, thank you for listening. He's Adam Camilleri. I'm Steve Joel. We appreciate your time, and we hope you got something out of this. Again, get to 40kbynight.com. Big shout out to our friends on the Patreon and on the Discord. And we will see you next